And we're back with Truth Unrestricted, the podcast that is creating and interpreting the language of the disinformation age. I'm Spencer, your host. I'm back again today with Patrick. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm good. No, words. I am doing good. We're off to a great
Really? Are you
start. Yeah.
sure, though?
All the words wanted to come out at once. I'm good. How are you
Wow.
doing?
Patrick's a little excited for this today. I am
Yeah.
also excited. Yeah. I should get some like papers here on my desk to like shuffle or have in front of me, something like while the intro plays so that I can look like I'm, while the intro is playing, I can look like I'm doing something here to like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Should have some sort of
I'm
opening
almost ready. I'm
sequence.
preparing the last few things, 20 more seconds, and that's just the amount of time to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe an
Uh,
animated sequence, something, a zoom in, a
yeah.
wide panning
Yeah.
zoom in.
Something.
And
Come up with something, maybe. I don't know. Video of my cat doing something fun or something. I don't know. Something.
yeah.
But let's get right to the topic today. There's no housework, housekeeping to do, and on this podcast, as almost always, there's never anything like that. I want to talk today about the globalists. And I want to say it like that too. The globalists.
Ooh,
Really, really
sounds
intense.
sinister. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with this, Patrick. Let's do it this way.
Okay.
What do you know about the globalists as a
Oh,
as a self-professed normie? You're a normie, right?
yeah, I know what I hear in hushed tones around the water cooler about the elite cabals making all the decisions and
In
how
the
they're
biz, we pronounce it cabal. But yeah,
cabal.
sure.
Yeah, sorry, a total normie.
Cabal.
I'm gonna butcher some pronunciations here, but
So nervous today. It's
yeah,
unbelievable how nervous you are. Tripping over your words,
yeah,
mispronouncing things.
yeah.
Crazy. The globalists, they got you.
I know. I just
So
I don't know much aside from the fact that usually it's used as a derogatory slur towards the would-be decision makers who work together and cooperate to try and chart some course forward for all of us.
hmm,
But usually it's, when you hear about it, it's what I hear most is that that there is all these ulterior motives and it's all meant to be about control.
yeah, there's that word control again. Bringing up our old friend decision paranoia, right? As soon as you talk about anyone controlling anything, you get the people who are conspiratorial in the word going, I don't want them to control anything. I don't want them to control me. That's not what this should be about. It shouldn't be about control. Don't make me wear a mask.
Hmm.
Um, so, but you get the sense, of course, that there is a conspiratorial essence to the mention of the word globalist, right?
Yeah, I've never heard anyone use it as a compliment.
Yeah, right. Yeah. In the same way that we tend to, like nowadays, we tend to add a touch of venom to the word billionaire now.
Hmm.
Generally in our lives, we do that. Billionaire is something only billionaires are happy about.
Yeah, yeah.
The
By
rest
and
of us
large,
are not happy about the billionaires in the world generally.
exactly. Yeah, billionaires aren't using the word.
No, no, they're using what? Are you sure though? I mean, are you
Oh,
there?
they're
You
just
listening to
talking
them?
about. They're talking about. Well, I mean,
They high
you don't
five each
hear
other. Way
them.
to go, man! In
Yeah.
the club, in
Oh,
the
I mean,
billionaire
what's going to
club.
happen? Like the lesser billionaires are going to call out the bigger billionaires, and like once you're a
I'm worth
billionaire, you're
six
trying
billion.
not to
I'm
attract
only
notice.
worth 4 billion. Will you go wash
Yeah.
my car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So to me, this whole globalist situation stems first of all from one of the parts of the pet project of mine, which is about words. It's just about words. I'm a big nerd for words. Um, we have misused some of our words. Again, we have sort of done sloppy language stuff, and this has allowed some people to like insert extra things to get sort of a conspiratorial rider on top of another thing. So it starts with the word globalization. So globalization is is the process of connecting the world past all of its many borders, generally
Hmm.
speaking, and connecting it first through trade and trade agreements and lowering of tariffs, but also with tourism,
Hmm.
with increasing understanding of other cultures,
Yeah.
uh, all
Population
that stuff.
movements.
Well, it's difficult to, so there aren't that many people actually working on globalism as a belief system. So usually our isms are one of two things. They are belief systems, or they are denoting a way in which we're dividing something. So like nationalism is a division along national lines, right? And racism is a division among races. And ageism is about differences between the different age groups and this sort of thing.
Right. Okay, I
Isms
can
are
see that.
about a way to define ways in which there's divisions there and whatnot,
Hmm.
which is distinctly different from globalism. It's doing the exact opposite of that. It's attempting to remove all those divisions, all those boundaries, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's trying to have a one whole approach to how the
Well,
globe
yeah,
works.
it's sort of. I mean, it would make sense as a division if there were more than one planet upon which we might be talking about, right?
Right.
If humans existed on all the planets of the solar system, globalism would definitely be a thing we were thinking about, where each planet is only looking for its own interest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, in which case there would be, I don't know, what solar systemists that would be looking to unite everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
In that, someone should write that science fiction novel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, but globalization is where it starts. And then, because people who talk about this sort of shorten words, they talk about globalism, but it's not really a belief, right? It's not, there's no religion here. There's no set of dogmatic beliefs. There's nothing like that happening with globalism among people who want it to happen.
Mhm.
There's nothing like that. It's mostly driven by people who study economics, who work on having it's mostly about removing trade barriers. I mean, it's that boring. It's
Mhm.
really that boring. Ha- we've touched on this a little bit in the last couple episodes, actually. That's why I wanted to make sure I got this episode in right now, is that we've touched on this idea that uh having a wider market, having more availability, having you're going to look for some technology to accomplish a thing, and you're in Canada, and it's useful to you if you don't limited to just the things that are also just made in Canada. If you also, if they make something in France or Italy or the US or something that might be good for the project you're working on, in which you need some unique thing, it would be good to be able to look to those places and be able to obtain that item, that technology, that sort of, equipment or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's sort of one of the many ways in which having a global marketplace, which is a thing that's only possible because of globalization, uh, that's a thing that lets that exist,
Mhm.
right? Where a it's not a thing that for everyday people we tend to see a direct benefit, but we will tend to get a lot of small benefits as a result of that. And it's mostly with respect to cheaper prices for things.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order to have so many products that are so highly specialized and so complicated, you really need to have, it helps anyway to have a global marketplace where you have some components that are mined in China, and then they're shipped to Japan, and the Japanese are turning them into chips, and then those chips are being used as some part of a computer thing and assembled in the US, and then we buy it here, and I get a brand new laptop that I have just last week that I bought, and I have it here now. And you
Mhm.
have, and those are just 4 steps of it. There's many more steps than that, right? Including in some cases, a single laptop might have components that cross the Pacific Ocean several times, actually, in the many steps of the construction of the many parts that go into this thing.
Yeah.
And it's probably made from parts that are made in, just the parts that were constructed and placed in there. Probably many of the parts made from many other countries and pulled together to all throw into this one machine. And
Yeah.
in order to have that for a reasonable price, which I'm not going to say because they didn't sponsor me, but in order to have for a reasonable price, you kind of need all these various entities competing to make the better price.
Mhm.
And then many laptop manufacturers competing to get the lowest price so that they can attract me to buy the product, right? So, and that's just how the marketplace works. And it
Right.
works better when there's more customers. It works better when there's more suppliers. It works better when it's larger. So that's a big reason why we start this conversation off this way, is because we've got to this place that's locks us in this way.
Mhm.
There's a couple of weaknesses, right? Let me just pull my notes up here so I don't get lost and forget all the little points. Uh, there's a couple of weaknesses of this sort of global marketplace, which is that as soon as there's anything that's restricting this very suddenly, like we have seen recently,
Mhm.
uh, 5 to 6-ish years ago, we saw this with COVID.
Mhm.
Suddenly, we had a great reduction in the amount of things that were shipped very, very suddenly, and this caused a lot of headache and problems for the global supply chain, as it's sort of also
Yeah.
called. And that some of those things are still coming up now, in the form of, at first there was just some weird products that just weren't available, and then because those were used as part of other products, those products also weren't available or had to use some more expensive component to like substitute, and then that product had to be more expensive for a while.
Mhm.
um, and we're kind of seeing that come out now, only now we have a new one. We have a Strait of Hormuz that is now getting blockaded by 2 countries as of a
Yeah.
few days ago.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that today
Thankfully.
because it's all stupid. But
Yeah.
20% of the world's petroleum suddenly can't move, and you get all of these sort of little hiccups happening again. It's not as steep a shutdown, a downturn as it was, but it's definitely a thing that's going to cause problems for a lot of countries.
Mhm.
Primarily, first Japan and Korea, because they have processes that use liquefied natural gas that they essentially cannot stop, or they have to set themselves back on like the manufacture of uh, wafer material for boards and memory chips and this sort of thing by upwards of 6 months,
Mhm.
because they the way the process works, you can't just stop it. You have to ramp it down. Even after you ramp it down, you have to ramp it back up again. Um, so yeah, it also has a certain momentum, and as soon as you play with that momentum, you get other problems.
Yeah.
Um, so stop there, and we'll check in with you, see how I'm doing, see if it makes sense, see if I've missed anything that's obvious to you.
I think
What's
it's also worth discussing, like one of the desired outcomes is a type of fairness in the market. So like when you mention a couple countries in particular are getting hit harder because of the
yeah,
constriction to their supplies, which are much more needed than perhaps other nations. Right now, they're dealing with something that is an unfair barrier to their fair participation in the marketplace, and it's because of things that have nothing to do with them. Just happens to be, a geographic feature, essentially, right?
mm,
But
yeah,
the whole idea of having these economies where parts will go internationally to create the increasing levels of sophistication to eventually result in a laptop. Every participating nation, those companies, when they succeed, they add to the success through the GDP of that nation. And so a lot of that, what I see as globalism is just big picture thinking, right? People want economies to work and function effectively and fairly, but at the same time, every single nation is going to be trying to negotiate and leverage its advantages for the sake of its own interests, so it walks away with the most amount possible. So that type of min maxing across all the nations, it creates like a very complicated trading and negotiating
Mm,
landscape among nations. So, I
yeah.
mean, why people are meeting constantly, the so-called elites and the rulers or whatever, because this stuff is never ending, and something gets knocked out of whack, and it can have impacts further down the supply chains in other nations and echoes. And suddenly the US thinks, oh, this didn't really affect us, until those chips are coming back and they carry more costs. And then your promises to your electorate that they're going to be paying less, now they're paying more
Mm.
because you've complicated everything with, other political considerations.
Yeah. Uh, so globalization and the people who put that together, notice I worded that way.
Mhm.
I mean, they generally want no tariffs, and they want as free a trade as is possible in every region.
Mhm.
But they also want no subsidization of any products. That's another
Like
thing generally that
government
they,
intervention. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this is the heart of, on paper, pure capitalism
Mhm.
drives the globalization effort, right? Generally speaking. And I don't want to get into long discussion today about the good and bad parts of capitalism as a concept. I do have an episode I want to do someday on that, but it's well known, I think, and it worth mentioning right now is that capitalism as a set of concepts is a big reason why you would want globalization. Everything becomes cheaper, there's more products available, etc.
Mhm.
And of course, but we have some countries still that put up protectionist measures, uh, and people who want protectionist measures. Um, some people want their own country to be self-sustaining, which
Mhm.
is I don't know if they really put it that way, but that's generally what it works out to when you talk to them. They want their nation to be self-sustaining. They have this dream that um, they'll only be using the products that are made in their own country. And it's an interesting idea. I think there's only a couple of countries that could ever realistically get there without a large number of like technological achievements.
Mhm.
And probably right now that's only the US and China that could maybe potentially achieve that. But China is the only one that could realistically do it because they're essentially a dictatorship. They could just tell their people, you're not going to consume those goods. We're not letting them in the country. And the people are going to have to just put up with that.
Yeah.
They say, yeah, we're not going to get these products anymore. We don't make them here. And we're not accepting any products from the nation that they're made from. You just have to find a way to live without these products. We're not even sorry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much the only way it could work right now. And I mean, China does make a large number of products, but a lot of them still are fairly low end products, right? Teapots, uh, little cars for children. A lot of toys are made in China. Like there's a huge number of things, and they're starting to get to some more complicated things. That I keep hearing about how good their electric vehicles are. I'm still not convinced that it's not at least some measure of hype, because
Hmm.
also their electric vehicle industry is highly subsidized. So they talk about how cheap everything is, and I'm like, well, how cheap would those be if they weren't subsidized?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I don't know. We'll all find out eventually how good China's EVs are. But a lot of what China makes now, the bulk of it is still fairly simple products. They're not making a massive number of the high quality televisions. They're not making a number of the high quality. They're not making the laptops of the world. They're not making the chips and the memory. They're not making. They can do some computer stuff, but they're not making the computer goods the way that their neighbors are.
Hmm.
And most of those are doing it in a way that they're only focusing on certain components, right? Korea makes most of the memory, the RAM of the world. Almost all comes from Korea. And they found a way to they have a number of companies that compete with this, and they in their marketplace they have, that they can have a university system that trains people for working in those fields, and then you have multiple companies that all benefit from having them trained that way. There are reasons why it's sort of worked out that way for Korea, but uh the idea that you're going to just enter that marketplace and be as good at that as the Koreans are is probably a little naive. And I
Hmm.
think the few nations that have tried it have discovered it's a little naive, to make it in a
Well,
smaller package and make it as
yeah,
cheaply as it is and all that stuff.
it's going to boil down to cost. If they
Yeah, oh
can get
yeah,
it cheaper from Korea,
yeah.
that's going to be the answer
It's
over
the same
producing
reason
it.
why I hire a plumber to fix things in my house.
Yeah.
I can fix plumbing, but when I do it, it takes much, much longer, and I have to buy much more parts, and it ends up costing me more than it would be to just hire a plumber.
Yeah.
That's it. Other nations can do these things, but not for nearly the cost.
Hmm.
So, I maybe I'm getting off track with this thing. I was talking about globalization and global trade, and
Hmm.
how China and the U.S. are kind of the only countries that could potentially get to this point where they maybe could make
Self-reliant.
everything for themselves.
Hmm.
But even so, they would have to give up on a number of products.
And
Even as
cost
big as
benefits.
the
Yeah.
even as big as the US market is now, they're also consuming nearly every product made in the world. So they would have to give up a bunch of those products. They could make some, but they'd have fewer selections, and they probably
Hmm.
have higher prices on them.
And then knowing
Yeah.
that kind of American individualist mindset, there would also be looking for every way to circumvent those restrictions, right?
Well, yeah. Fun story, right? There is a motorcycle company called Harley Davidson, and this company was had such good marketing that they had multiple magazines during the 70s and 80s and 90s that were almost exclusively devoting their motorcycle enthusiasm toward fandom to Harley Davidson,
Hmm.
and how Japanese made motorcycles just weren't as good. Um, and then Harley Davidson ended up in their Made in America approach, and their strict hardline Made in America approach, and refusing to do it any other way. They just got plain old outcompeted, and eventually they had to sell to a Japanese conglomerate that was wanted to make motorcycles, and they bought Harley Davidson. And it was a big blow to the ego of a lot of people that were rah-rah chest thumpers, look at our awesome American company that makes these awesome motorcycles that sound really good. Blah, 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 blah. I
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
of a Harley Davidson.
Throaty.
But they just weren't able to compete. And it was, so they had the sexiest product in their category. They had the most popular product in their category, but they could not compete on costs. Like, people were willing to pay more, but they weren't in the end willing to pay that much more that often.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of just letting it founder, they sold it and another company took over. And I don't keep track anymore of all the changes that were made at Harley Davidson. They still make motorcycles. They're still a very stylish brand. I think it's still, oddly enough, I think it's still true that you need more repairs on a Harley Davidson motorcycle than you do on any Honda motorcycle made, which was true since sometime in the 80s. Harley owners were pulling their bikes over and fixing them all the time. The joke was that if you own a Harley, you also own a truck, because you need a truck to hold it. And it was real, for
Yeah.
real. If you own a Honda, you could also own a car.
Yeah.
It's just how it was. I mean, they got outcompeted.
Yeah.
Because they were leaning too hard on this made in America thing, and it just didn't work out. They didn't take advantage of a global supply chain. Yeah. So protectionism as a concept is you can do it, but it will always lead to higher prices. Economics, like, people think of economists as, sometimes they think of economists as I don't know what they think of them as, demons or something. They think of them as bad people, and all the globalists are economists, by the way. But they're mostly doing math. Like, most of economics is math. It's just math. And I mean, game theory. I mean, you're essentially doing game theory math with economics. I don't know how you're going to beat math. Feelings do not trump mathematics. They just don't. You can feel as good as you want about the products that are made in your region or whatever, but if doing them a different way makes them better and cheaper, I don't know how you're going to compete with that. And Harley Davidson certainly did not.
Yeah.
So this sort of we get to this sort of conflict between protectionism and globalism, right? And you might have noticed, I don't know if you noticed, but we haven't had a world war since just a moment, Patrick. So we have this sort of conflict between protectionism and globalization, right? And two conflicting ideas. You might have noticed, Patrick, that we haven't had a really big world war in a long time. I mean, you probably noticed that, I'm
I've
assuming.
noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a thing that is noticeable.
It's conspicuously absent.
Conspicuously, yeah, that's right. And we used to have these sorts of things. They used to be happening fairly frequently and building up in magnitude. And then we had that one way back in the 1940s, and then we haven't had one since. Despite having much worse and much more dangerous armaments and everything else, nuclear weapons and all that stuff.
Well,
I think
is
nuclear
that,
weapons
to
played
be fair,
some part.
is that despite, or is that because of?
Well, it's felt by some people that globalization discourages people from nations from participating in these sorts of conquest projects
Hmm.
because they would have to interrupt trade in order to do it. And
Well, yeah, that's
yeah,
one reason.
they're not well, it's one reason, right? It's a
Hmm.
factor, right? It's not the entire reason.
Hmm.
Certainly nuclear weapons plays some part.
Yeah.
But the ability to make tanks faster and more of them and everything else would on its own tend to lead some country somewhere to think, oh man, we can let's get a bunch of shiny new versions of this and let's really roll them into the field. I mean, let's do this. Except that uh trade would, much of the world economies now of individual nations rely heavily on trade,
Hmm.
and that sort of conflict interrupts that trade. So you tend to not see it a lot, especially in the nations that rely more heavily on trade, which are uh, what's generally referred to as the first world nations, um, which has been a definition that's shifted over time. But the more we have trade and the more of our economy is based on trade, the less likely we are to give up that part of our economy just to go to war. And also, a big reason to go to war now is to get the resources. And a lot of people are getting those resources through trade without the need for war. So, yeah, this is a reason that uh, discourages this sort of large scale multinational conflict. We
Hmm.
are seeing it sometimes between individual pairs of nations. Right now, there's a big row between Russia and Ukraine, and there's
Hmm.
worried that it could go into worse things. But the first thing that they do as soon as they see someone uh, getting ready to fight, they put trade sanctions.
Hmm.
And they say, okay, this is a reminder of what this is going to look like if you carry this on. Trade can't work when all this war is happening.
And trade
And
sanctions, just I'm not super clear. So that's kind of like the states saying other countries like won't be allowed to trade with Russia, otherwise the US isn't
yeah,
going to trade with you,
and
sort
sometimes
of
the
thing.
trade sanctions are limited to certain sectors,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
certainly, first of all, you might want to stop trading anything that might help anyone build armaments and
Right.
weaponry and that sort of thing. But also, you might have in the case of Russia now, it's trade sanctions for all kinds of things. I think they're not limiting food trades. I haven't looked into it all, but usually they don't try to restrict the amount of food that goes to a nation because you could lead to starvation, and that's kind of genocide.
Hmm.
So, you know, we frown on it. Uh, People's nutritional needs and all that. But you will see conflict in nations that aren't able to get full political, what's the word, control over the nation, where they have revolutions, revolutionaries, and they have
Hmm.
terrorist groups, that sort of thing. That's true. And there's still military coups that still happen in some of the nations in Africa, for instance, and occasionally in South America. Unfortunately, they call this the global South. Um, and some of that discontent and sometimes is assisted by multinational corporations that have globalized and think they can make a better deal for the resources with the revolutionaries. And sometimes that also doesn't work out because they sometimes they renege. All
Hmm.
kinds of shenanigans happens with this stuff. Um, but right, so we have this conflict between these two. Some people think also attached to this idea that globalization can be a force that discourages military adventurism. Uh, the growing movement, for example, in the United States to push back against globalism, it might also among the people who push back against globalization, they might have a thought that they might be doing this to try to get themselves into a better position to do some military adventurism. Uh, I don't know how conspiratorial that seems to anyone, but certainly when you look at the people who are against globalization, specifically the people who use the word globalist, they tend to be more right leaning. They tend to be more conspiratorial. They, uh, right now, they're almost all Trump supporters. Trump is the one who's putting up tariffs and trying to protect the U.S. and trying to, uh, like he says, it's about bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. And I'm sure that's a thing that he'd love to have, but it's not something that's likely to work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a situation where if you're able to do it, if you're able to reduce your vulnerability to a decline in global trade, you are then removing one of the barriers to military adventurism. And of
For
course,
others, you mean?
no. Like if you're the United States, let's say
Okay.
you're a guy named Donald Trump, and you have a dream of making all of North America one country called the United States of America.
Right.
So they've even produced maps of it that include Canada, Mexico, and all the countries south of Mexico down to Panama, all as one single country
Mm-hmm.
with one flag. And you shouldn't be surprised at what flag they use.
Yeah.
Um, if you are in that position and you'd like to make that happen, but you know that being imperialistic in this way can interrupt trade, then maybe you want to first reduce your vulnerability to trade before you get ready to do what you're doing, what
Yeah.
you want to do. And so there's some people among them, maybe me, might be a little bit, I have to make some assumptions to make that out. I can't prove it, but in order to prove it, I would have to know what's inside the minds of these people. But I think that generally speaking, the people who want to limit globalization would also be pretty enthusiastic about military expansion. And I think the Venn diagram, there's a strong overlap between those two groups if they're not a perfect circle already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that part of it, I think, needs to be said about globalization and the pushback against globalization. What do you think of that, Patrick? Am I over my skis here? Am I going out on a limb?
No, I think that, I mean, that I just feel like there must be degrees of protectionism. And I think that there's a shallow end and a deep end, or like maybe, a rational end and an irrational end, right? Because it is rational for any nation or organization to consider its resilience to outside factors. And so, there's a difference between a country benefiting from and leveraging its advantages in negotiating with other countries and accessing benefits because it can get things cheaper, faster, or whatever. But I think that, like, having some prudent decision making around how reliant you're going to be on that for your critical factors, right? Like your telecommunications or your transport or things like that. Like everything that is the oil and working gears of your nation. I think it's reasonable to say, like, should we be should we be looking at more costly solutions if it means that we're not as vulnerable to changes? But on the other side, to go all the way to isolationist, which I think is kind of like the ultra end of the protectionist sphere,
Yeah.
is like the ultra isolationists will be the ones who close borders to information, right, or to any sort
Mhm.
of emigration or immigration. um, so so it's useful, I think, to look at the degrees and say, where do people approach this with some attitude of like, let's be reasonable so that we're addressing vulnerabilities, to like to compare them with the people who are perhaps xenophobic, to some degree. Just the fear of the other means that we have to close our borders because you know that type of, I don't know how to phrase that, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, uh, true isolationism has a couple of serious flaws, and you pointed to definitely to one of them, which is about information.
Hmm.
If a country was going to be truly isolationist, they would have to feel strongly that they're going to be able to keep up with advances in technology. Like
Hmm.
they're going to have to uh, uh, feel like they can compete with all of the ideas produced across the entire globe. Otherwise, before long, they're going to get left behind,
Hmm.
technologically speaking. There is one country that is completely isolationist and nonetheless developed vastly superior technology. Unfortunately, that country is completely fictional. It was Wakanda from the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Yeah,
the unicorn country that, of course, is fictional, and that's the only way it works.
yeah.
Um, so, yeah, we have this situation with this growing wealth inequality, right?
Hmm.
And this has increased distrust of corporations, and this has in itself, this distrust has given conspiracy grifters an opportunity to stoke the fears of people that and direct that fear toward like an unseen and unnamed group of enemies known as the globalists. uh, they become unnamed. Like, I always get highly suspicious when I ask for who's on the list of globalists and I don't hear a lot of names.
Hmm.
Um, Very few people in the conspiratorial world will name any of the globalists.
And
But
if they do, they're trying to rely on other things like, pointing the finger at Mark Carney because he was once in some sort of official position for the, what was it, the Bank of England or some
well,
other country, right? And they're like, oh, look how he pops around seeding his globalist will.
yeah, yeah. Mark Carney is definitely gonna get marked out as a globalist before long. I mean, he has all the hallmarks of it, right? He has a PhD in economics, Patrick. Economics.
Yeah,
Everyone knows all the globalists are also economists. They're also economists. Like,
yeah,
and he's like one of the god kings of economics. He ran two national banks,
yeah,
not at the same time, but like one and then the other. Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Yeah. Uh.
And yet I never hear them say like, oh, here's what they did. It's just like,
Well.
oh, he was in this position. I'd be like, do you think that's like enough to fucking convince me? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. He ran a bank.
Yeah. Oh, well. So that's where
So
my money's going. Like,
very often among people who spread conspiracy ideas, the globalists is a stand-in phrase for the Jews.
mm,
when comparing the stories that people tell about the globalists with previous stories that people used to tell, anti-Semitic stories about the Jews, there's a strong overlap. They'll bring in that there's a history of the globalists. I watched a video today. I have a clip. It's very, very short, but there are people. I mean, that I watched it, and it's boilerplate at this point. It's many people have done many things very, very much like this sort of history of globalism. And his video was literally called "Who and What Are the Globalists?" And he starts off literally by saying, yeah, it doesn't really matter who they are. It matters what they are. And then he proceeds to never name any globalists.
Yeah.
Never say who they are at all. Never.
Convenient.
Yeah. At one point in the video, he does say they're a what? They're the corporations. It's just the corporations. Okay. I think that, his ideas would not now I'm having trouble with words, would not stand up to scrutiny, because almost always the same people who are against globalists are all very pro-Trump. And for some reason, Trump having a multinational business real estate thing with many places, everything else, not a globalist, remarkably.
Yeah.
I don't know how he escaped that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it might be fun just to show a couple of clips of some people who say words like this, in just to get a feel for some of the things they say when they're saying when they say this.
Sure.
So let's pull this up. This first one is done with a special thank you to the Knowledge Fight podcast. They listen to Alex Jones every day, and they pull clips from Alex Jones's content, and then they discuss them and talk about what he's really saying and what it really means in the context of all the Alex Jones stuff. But this is a clip of a clip, is really what I'm saying. I didn't listen to all like Alex Jones stuff just to get this clip. I just heard it from theirs and grabbed it. So this is Alex Jones speaking.
The globalists bragged. Larry Fink bragged when Trump got in the first time 10 years ago at the Davos group publicly. He says, we're allied with China. America's done as a superpower. We're going to stop Trump with Xi Jinping and others.
Yeah. Like, all that is bullshit.
Larry Fink didn't say that?
Just, no.
Okay.
Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock.
Oh, I know who he is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, he didn't say that. I don't know what exactly he said. Probably something else that got reinterpreted as that. Yeah. Okay, but you get the idea that it gets thrown in, and it's, for many people, especially like Alex Jones, it's also a stand-in for the Illuminati. But the Illuminati was also, for many people, for a very long time, a stand-in for the Jews. So in that way, they're all swirling around and the same thing for many people. So the second one is a clip from that other YouTube video that I listened to earlier today. We'll just play it here.
As a way of funding and fueling the centralized control point, in this case of London, where London becomes the center of banking, of trade, of merchants, for all of the raw materials and cheap labor production of India, of Africa, somewhat Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, but Australia, Canada. They wanted to do the same to us. That's why we revolted. We are fundamentally an anti-globalist nation. We didn't want private corporations dominating the United States for raw materials and cheap labor. We had grown a sense of our own independence.
What?
Yeah, it's
Wait, there was a
he
revolt against corporations controlling the
well,
country?
you see the whole, like, I didn't want to get into the whole thing, but the whole video is like a reinterpretation of history to explain where the globalists fit in all of history. So he
Yeah.
goes back to like Rome. Dude goes back to like Rome, starts at Rome, and how Rome and through the Middle Ages and through the Renaissance and all that it goes through, and how in that part he's talking about how the globalists had set up shop in the Netherlands, but were getting ousted by something. I can't remember what, because it was stupid.
Hmm.
And then they decided to move across and take over uh, England and set up shop in London, and then spread their evilness to, and he just lists a bunch of places. Doesn't seem to mention that they were all British colonies. That's just the British colonies. Yeah, Britain did a bunch of colonies. A
Hmm.
bunch of other people also did a bunch of colonies. Were the
Hmm.
Portuguese spreading that to Brazil? Were the Spanish spreading that to all their colonies? He doesn't say anything about that. And yeah, he doesn't need that. He just needs to have a through line to say this is the globalists. But to him, it's always the bankers. It's always the people who are sneaking and stealing the money behind everyone's back and all this stuff, which is all the Jewish anti-Semitic tropes that have happened for centuries. And
You know, it's
yeah,
very telling that there's never any sort of suggestion as to who should be making these decisions or cooperating about policy concerning global economics. Like, of course, it's going to be the people that know the stuff doing the job. And yet, like, I don't know, did you, like, I just want to ask them, like, oh, did you want to weigh in with your comprehensive plan about how 120 plus countries are going to get along and manage trade relations in this planet, right? Like,
yeah. Well, he feels that they don't need it. It should just be all American. Yeah, yeah. But I
yeah,
just thought
right.
that whole part was so hilarious. How he's like, we're a fundamentally against all this stuff, man. Oh man,
Not if people like
wait till you
to
find
achieve
out where they're
efficiency.
all headquartered. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
oh man, the call is coming from inside the house, dude. Like,
That's
I don't know
right.
how to tell you.
Look at the global stock markets and the biggest companies in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I did mention that people weren't talking about who exactly the globalists were.
Mhm.
But I thought that I would put together a short list of who generally comes up if you force people to say who the globalists are. So um, this is in the category I call definitely a globalist. So George Soros is at the top of everyone's list of globalists whenever you mention globalists. He's the first person mentioned almost every time. George Soros.
Remind me who he is.
Oh, that's so fun that you don't know who George Soros is. Okay. George Soros is a Jewish man from, I believe, Hungary, who lives in the United States now. He is a multi-billionaire from hedge fund money, I believe. And he gives money almost exclusively to the Democratic Party and liberal causes.
Okay.
And for this reason, he gets wrapped up into a lot of conspiracy theories about things from the perspective of people who are very pro Trump.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Okay.
gets mentioned so often. I guess I just assume everyone has heard his name. But yeah, okay, sure. No problem. He's very, very old. He has a son who's also kind of giving some money away now. It's stupid.
All right.
Um, but Bill Gates, also
Yeah.
definitely a globalist.
Right.
Definitely a globalist. I don't, the reasons why. I mean, Microsoft is a multinational company. It's, I don't know,
It's
but
an
it's,
omni-national company.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What
yeah,
country isn't Microsoft in, right?
yeah, sure, yeah. Um, it's probably not North Korea.
Hmm. I wonder.
I don't know. I have to find out.
You think they're on Linux?
Yeah, yeah. Larry Fink from BlackRock,
Yeah.
mentioned often as a globalist, even though
Well, biggest asset manager on earth, right?
I think he's also very Republican. So it's
I
also
think he
weird.
leans Republican. He's definitely, the Republicans favor his policy.
Yeah. If we looked at who he gave money to, I bet you we'd see a lot of Republicans and maybe even some Democrats too, but
I would
mostly Republicans, I
imagine.
think.
Yeah, some even feathering.
But past these three, it usually devolves into no specific names. So I put everyone who attends the World Economic Forum Davos meetings.
Mm-hmm.
This is usually said by people who don't know who really attends the World Economic Forum Davos meetings.
Right. They just
Yeah.
see a few people who speak at those meetings.
Yeah. I think Trump was at the last one, by the way. He was very angry at what Carney said at the last one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But there you go. Carney was at the Davos meeting.
Yeah.
That globalist.
Yeah.
And everyone who attends the Bilderberg group meetings.
I'm not really familiar with Bilderberg.
This came up a couple episodes ago in some part of a conversation we're having. What Bilderberg group was, and I waffled on it. I didn't really know for sure, and I didn't want to make some bullshit answer. I looked it up a little bit today. It's not that big a deal. It's a group of people who, it started in the 1950s. It was meant to be a way to encourage stronger ties between Europe and North America in an effort to prevent global conflict.
Okay.
Because it was felt by them at the
goal.
time that most of the global conflicts up to that point had been caused by rifts in European politics, and that they were, at the time, they were facing, a Berlin Wall crisis thing, and I think 54 might have been right around the time of the airlift. I don't know, sometime in there, and the Soviet Union was a big bad guy, and they had a bunch of other countries under their sway, and it was an Iron Curtain situation. There was a real fear of another thing going on. So these guys got together as a Bilderberg group, and they started having regular meetings every year to try to encourage, to make sure that, I think now they look back on it and say that it was definitely to stop global conflict. But I bet you at the time in 1954, they would definitely say it was to stop communism.
Right.
That, I bet you there, if you look back on their meeting notes, you would find that there was definitely a lot of mentions of communism, because I bet you in Europe at the time, they were probably very worried about communism. So I made another couple lists. We're going to scroll through them here. This is the usually left off the list of globalists. Not often heard are Donald Trump, Elon Musk, or Peter Thiel. And that's so odd that Peter Thiel would not get mentioned. Like, he's just such a fucking globalist. Like, look at him. He's just, he's sweating all the time. Like, they caught him, right? like he's already being interrogated for being a globalist. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Thiel gets a pass, I guess.
Well,
Musk, Elon Musk should be a globalist. He's a shoo-in for globalist. Like, why isn't he a globalist? He's multinational. He's got the satellites looking, doing all the stuff, right? Like
yeah, but he's so globalist that, like, he transcends globalism.
Oh,
he's
fuck
like
off!
the
If that's the case,
spacefaring globalist, right?
Omni-national thing, like,
he'll be the first solarist.
Okay, so these are the maybe and sometimes globalists. Jeff Bezos, depending on who you talk to, sometimes maybe he's a globalist. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, to some people, sometimes he's a globalist. He's a globalist. Larry and Sergey, the co-founders of Google, now famous billionaires who give almost entirely to Republican causes. Yeah, they're sometimes to some people, globalists. And of course, Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle, sometimes mentioned maybe as a globalist.
Probably the most often one that I hear of this particular group. I hear a lot of mentions about Larry Ellison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a fucking weirdo, man.
Yeah, with regard to like trying to influence policy and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he definitely wants to influence policy. He's one of these guys who wants his own country.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting and fun. If anyone wants to send us a notification of who their favorite globalist is of a name that I missed, you can send
Tears
that
for
email to
Fears.
truthunrestricted@gmail.com. I have another couple of things here. Oh yeah, right. So let's close that down to remove that. I have another couple thoughts here, which is that globalism, this anti-globalist thought here, it leads to a couple of it has a couple of interconnections with some other stuff that I think we should just touch on really quickly.
Mhm.
In that usually it includes and involves a fear of outsiders and foreigners,
Mhm.
and a distrust of people who want stronger ties with other nations, and a lot of times they mention the idea that the globalists don't just exist, but they're having like an undue influence over the government of whatever nation is the person's in at the time. Mostly I hear this from people in the US, but people in Canada also say this. But more troublingly, this fuels a bigger conspiratorial idea, which is that in among those who want to vilify globalism, there's a tendency to want to greatly limit human migration to their own country. And wrapped up in this is a thing that's called the Great Replacement Theory. Have you ever heard of the Great Replacement Theory, Patrick?
Nope, never.
Well, I'm sorry to say I have to educate you today. So, the Great Replacement Theory. Did you ever pay attention at all to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2018?
I feel I it definitely came across my dashboard. I didn't pay close attention to it though.
Yeah, there was on the day of most of the protesting and everything, there was a man who, a Trump supporter who drove his car into a crowd of people who were protesting against the right wing and killed a woman. But the night before that happened, there was a big thing happening that was made the news too, which was a large group of white men. They were
Mhm.
almost exclusively white men carrying tiki torches and walking down the street chanting, "The Jews will not replace us." Do you remember that?
I remember the mob. Remember the pictures and the people in the like their crisp white shirts and tiki torches and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
looking almost identical. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And that was the thing they were chanting over and over again. The Jews will not replace us. So this is a part of what's known as the Great Replacement Theory, which is a conspiracy theory that puts forth the idea that the globalists, usually called the globalists, sometimes just the Democrats, and sometimes both, the globalists and their Democrat allies, are working together to import people of color and Jewish people to outnumber the white majority, to water down or to reduce the voting power of the white people of the U.S.
Right.
And um, yeah, I don't know how to tell anyone they need some proof of that before they really, like there is no proof that this is happening. When you ask for proof, they'll usually point to the fact that there are people entering the country from other places, and there are, but they don't seem to be voting. They'll claim that they're voting, but they don't. And no one's ever caught a person who was not a U.S. citizen voting.
Well, not only that, but who are they replacing?
Well,
Right.
the idea is that they're going to outnumber the white people, and this is a fear that's happening in Canada too. People say this in Canada too, that people from India and Pakistan and China are coming here in such great numbers that they will eventually outnumber us. We will no longer be the most populous category anymore. At the point where I think where the white people in Canada are no longer over 50%. And at that point, there was a bunch of people made a lot of noise. See, it's already happening. We're already less than 50%. And that was like 20 years ago. This is the slowest conspiracy plan ever.
Yeah.
The really long-term planning. We should get them to plan cities, these globalists, because if they're able to have a coherent plan that lasts for more than 20 years, man, what kind of urban planning could we get out of that?
Well, I mean, isn't part of the whole globalist conspiracy rhetoric also contains the 15-minute city ideal? Like we're going to be contained and controlled within
That's
these.
that's more about just decision paranoia, right? That's like, control. They're going to lock us in. They're going to prevent us from going anywhere. Most of those people aren't going anywhere anyway. Like, I would be happy if every part of my life was a 15-minute walk away. You kidding me?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think I like driving longer than that to work.
Yeah.
No, not
A
a
bunch of
chance.
fucking commuting enthusiasts.
Oh my God. What the hell?
Give me those 3-hour cities.
Yeah.
Huh.
And another thing to point out is that I don't know if you picked up on it. I think I mentioned it a little earlier that the ideas that drive globalism are all the same ideas that are part of like pure, unadulterated capitalist ideas. Right? Like, just let everything go, let the market decide where everything should go, don't regulate anything. Like, all of those ideas are what drive globalization. And all of the people who say globalist as a bad word love capitalism. Like, the Venn diagram of those is a perfect fucking circle. So I don't understand how they are against globalists but are still so pro-capitalist. You have any thoughts on that? You probably don't, because you just
No, but I
caught
mean,
on to
it,
this
it,
tonight.
it
But
is a striking kind of
yeah,
contradiction, right?
it's difficult to square that circle.
Especially with how obvious the wealth disparity is between the upper and lower class.
Well, the wealth disparity, like this video I watched today, videos like that are meant to onboard people to conspiracy ideation. They take a lot of things that people see in the world as fear, and that guy particularly was taking moments from history and wrapping them into his conspiracy ideas as a reinterpretation of history from the perspective of globalists, as though they're a species of creature that's been around for thousands of years. He's just talking about the Jews, Patrick. He's just talking about the Jews. There's a reason why he started at Roman history, because it was the moment where the Jews started to become a problem for someone outside the Middle East.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at that part out of the way. He's just talking about the Jews in this stupid video. I the whole, man, these people are so stupid. I'm so lost in trying to make sense of it. How you could be so pro-capitalist and anti-globalist and make sense of that. But I guess the point is that it's meant to not make sense. It's meant to be confusing, because what it's actually meant to do is it's meant to allow them to name who the globalists are as they go, which is exactly part of what I said before, where I had the list of the people who definitely always were and the people who definitely never were, even though all those people should be globalists by any measure, any objective measure, right? Like
Mhm.
Elon Musk should be right beside Bill Gates as far as like global reach for technology and everything else.
Yeah.
Just as globalized a thing, right? Um,
Well, you look at Trump too. Like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
like there is the ideation, their idea of a map, that is the entire world eventually becoming the United States of America. Like what would be more global than one nation on this whole planet,
Yeah.
right? But they're not against that. They're okay with that. Just any other nation, no thanks.
Yeah, yeah, as long as it's their nation winning. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that often comes up very, very often with Alex Jones, but also with some other people, probably because of Alex Jones's inevitable influence on the conspiratorial world, is that the globalists want a one world government, which means that the idea that the globalists are bad is a thing that directly works to counter any attempt to cooperate between
Mhm.
nations in the world. Any sign that any nations are cooperating in something is instead reinterpreted as, aha, see, I told you about this. It's the globalists working on a one world government. You can't listen to the UN. You can't listen to the World Economic Forum. You can't
Mhm.
listen to any of these groups that have anyone from multiple nations
World
in them.
Health Organization.
Oh, you definitely can't listen to the World Health Organization. That's the globalists working on a one world government. The
Yeah.
World Trade Organization, that's the globalists and the one world government again.
Mhm.
Um, Most of that, it doesn't make sense. And having it not make sense is part of what makes it work for conspiracy ideas. Because despite the fact that it doesn't make sense, people can like it, right? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
need to be logical for them to appreciate it as an idea.
Well, nobody ever really connects the dot too that nothing that happens at any of these group meetings that are, global world leaders, it never ever translates into some sort of legislation in that home country. That leader still has to bring the idea home, sell it to the populace, and have it go through the official channels to become a law or a regulation that changes how things are done within the country. So really, at the end of the day, all the people, the conspiracy theorists are against is a bunch of people talking, just talking.
There's a fear that the rich elites of the world gain enough power that they don't anymore need input from ordinary people. Like that's the base level fear that drives this.
That eventually will have a subjugated populace.
Well, that they don't need our input. I mean, democratic processes are a method of mandating input from the masses to do things in a country.
Mhm.
And not all the countries have them. Some of them
Mhm.
have a pretense of democracy, where
Mhm.
you'll only have one choice, but you'll go to the poll anyway.
Mhm.
Hilariously, um, but uh, that's the base level fear, right? Is that because these people are so rich and they are doing things like, going to space on a whim, right?
Mhm.
They're, Larry Ellison has a real project of trying to make his own nation that he owns in international waters,
Hmm. I didn't know
where
that.
he doesn't have to. Him and several other people are involved in it. Uh, it's a place where he doesn't have to abide by um, the other, there are common restrictions on what you can do for research, like biomedical research and research done specifically like on humans.
Yeah, like international conventions.
Yeah. Right. But if you have your own country and you don't need any other countries in your own country, you don't need those, right?
Hmm.
It's entirely crazy idea. It's unclear how he's ever going to get anyone there to experiment on, because it won't be like, his idea is to make one where no one currently lives. And how's he going to get other people there? Like, none of it makes sense.
Hmm.
It's probably never going to happen. I mean, probably he'll have an idea and then he'll be long gone. I mean, most of these people are afraid of death. That's another thing, that mostly people want to do a lot of these things because they're afraid of dying. Peter Thiel is afraid of dying. He's always been afraid of dying. He's spoken of it openly many times. It's why he does such insane health stuff. He, at one point was taking a therapy that was like injecting blood from younger people in the hopes that the, components of the blood would help him stay younger. I don't think he did that for very long, but he did do it for a short time. Yeah, they're afraid of dying. And so they want the biomedical research to extend their lives and their lifespans because they love living so much.
Hmm.
And, if I had that much money, I probably would love living that much too, where I would
Hmm.
want to break every rule to live as long as possible. Um, yeah, but because we have these conspiracy theories, these conspiracy grifters grabbing these ideas, where we have a globalization as a process, we have globalism, which is sort of a offhand way to describe the set of ideas. They're able to manufacture a globalist from that. And because they're not naming them, like, you should always get very suspicious. Everyone should get very suspicious when someone speaks authoritatively about something as a group of people, but can't name who they are or
Yeah.
won't name who they are.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Jones claims to have done all the research and has all the evidence and everything else that he never shows anyone. But he would have trouble naming, 5 globalists if you caught him off guard.
Hmm.
And for that matter, he should be able to name 500. He should be able to name them all. He's supposed to have been at this for 20 years as his only job. like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like he should be able to, he should have them written down already on a board. Like, he has a studio and they have other offices. In one of the offices, they should have the board where they have the list of globalists and they keep track of what they currently do. Like,
Hmm.
but he doesn't have that because he's just a grifter.
Hmm.
He's just selling the idea that globalists exist and they're doing bad things.
He's an attention farmer.
Yeah. So on that cheery
Fun.
note,
Yeah.
um, I still very disappointed in the people who listen to this podcast that they don't want pictures of pets. I don't know what else to offer. I don't
I
have
think
any thing
this
to
should
send
be the
anyone.
episode that people step out of the shadows and issue their challenges, right?
Hopefully.
Be like, but what about this? But what about that? Because, like, I know sometimes trying to have a discussion with someone and just to ask them, well, why do you believe this? And then they send you like a parade of links. It's like, but what's your idea about why any of this makes sense? You can't nail them down on a simple answer. You can't have them show you a thing that happened. And yet, they just want to just inundate you with these giant walls of text. It's just people feeding the fear, feeding the paranoia.
Yeah.
Hello, kitty. Oh.
A little purr action there.
Yeah.
Woke him up from a nap.
Little
He's
kitty.
unhappy. He's fine though. He loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chill.
Again, viewers on YouTube looking at my kitten.
Yeah. Stop screenshotting this for free.
Yeah.
even your cat's
No,
like,
we want
what?
the feedback.
Yeah.
You get better pictures.
Yeah, right.
I'll send you
All right.
I'll send you pictures of him batting at things like cute kitten stuff or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, if anyone wants pictures of a cat that's not theirs because they like pictures of extra cats,
Yeah.
send an email to truthunrestricted@gmail.com. Tell me what you think of the podcast or what I could do to improve it or whatever you would like. Just tell me that you want a picture of the cat already. He's getting a complex that no one likes him. Yeah.
Eventually,
So
we got to get to that cat calendar stuff.
Yeah. With that, I think we'll sign off, Patrick. So until next time.
Until next time. Outro by Jeff Powell.
Yes. Good. Yes. Thank you. Interrupt that outro. Thank you to my friend Jeff Powell, who wrote that music for me specifically. Did it. It's like 3 different guitars he used for that, whatever. It's this whole thing. I don't know how any of it works. I just know that guitars exist and people play them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
So thanks, Jeff, again, every time. I'll get better at remembering, I promise.
I got to do something useful.
Yeah, something useful. Okay, here it is again.